All right, I think we're recording. Hey team, Jeremy here. So this module is on 1,000 true fans, or sometimes what we call super fans or raving fans. And this is an idea that was I first came across in around, I think it was about 2008. A guy called Kevin Kelly wrote a really great article on this insight specifically for artists. Initially, from memory, it was around the music industry, and the idea of this was that with 1,000 true fans paying you $100 over the course of a year, that the average artist could be successful enough to, live a good life and operate as an artist, doing whatever artistry it was. And this is a really interesting concept, and it's one that when you tie into your overall big picture view of your marketing, of your offers, it's a really interesting insight. And so this module, we're going to go over this concept, and we're going to have a look at probably around 20 to 21 ideas around how to generate 1,000 true fans. So the first idea to think about is, this insight that the number one problem stopping most coaches from scaling their product, program, or mastermind is a shortage of warm, qualified leads. Okay, the number one problem. And if there's a spot to comment below, you can comment or share. But this is really the crux of the dilemma of being in business, being an entrepreneur. The biggest bottleneck at the beginning of business is usually a shortage of warm, qualified leads. I won't go through the 7 attentions of business, but your customer acquisition is the base, similar to your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The lifeblood of your business is your customer acquisition. And so when we think about this idea, if I can get my Apple Pen to connect. If it's not going to connect, I will plug it back in. I'm going to plug it back in. Give me 1 second. The idea of 1,000 true fans giving you $100. $100,000 does not go as far as it used to. So in terms of what I would recommend when I talk about, there we go, Apple Pen's connected. When we talk about this concept of 1,000 true fans, what I recommend is thinking in the ballpark. Why won't that do that? Think in the ballpark. There we go. Got it working. Thinking in the ballpark of, sort of that 100 to $1,000 per customer over the course of 1 year. Okay, so this is, $1,000 is not exactly low ticket, okay, but we're sort of looking at anything that is an offer that sits in that low ticket. You could even argue down to $1, okay, meaning $1 right up to 1,000. But around $100 per fan is a better sort of thing to aim for. And so what that means is between your different programs, your low ticket offerings, and we'll go over a whole bunch of these in a sec, that you're extracting at minimum $100 and ideally $1,000 or more from 1,000 people over the course of 1 year. Okay, that's sort of the idea. So we're really looking at scaling our business and obviously attracting our ideal customers, if you can see that. Okay, this 1,000 true fans model, okay, is really, really useful, especially when we're looking at the base of your value ladder, meaning for the cheaper end of your products and services, with the insight that it's much easier to sell your high ticket services to customers. Okay, it's much easier when someone's already bought something from you, even if it's quite low ticket, for them to then jump up to a much, much higher ticket offer, because they've already paid you, and ideally you've delivered something of value. So when it comes to this insight, it's useful to think about your main offer. Why is that doing that? Let's go back to this one. Your main offer. There we go. And then potentially breaking that offer up into sections or segments of subject matter which has a high value result. So I'm a big believer in seeing things from a fractal perspective, and very often you can take a subject matter that you're an expert in and break it up into smaller subjects, and then market those smaller subjects and sell those as a lower ticket product or service or experience that builds a relationship with the customer. Okay, and so the idea of having your main offer and then breaking that up into smaller offers is a really, really good way of developing a customer base. Not just a lead base. So you may have 10,000 leads, but we're talking about 1,000 actual customers. Yeah, and it's the insight being it's much easier to sell your high ticket products and services to people who have already bought from you. So when it comes to this idea, there are a heap of different insights. So we're going to go through a bunch of them now in terms of ideas. So if you haven't got a notepad or pen ready, I'd recommend grabbing them. So the first one is ebooks and digital guides. So these are like comprehensive guides on specific topics related to your expertise. Workbooks that you've created that help your clients implement strategies and techniques. Okay, so these are ebooks and digital guides are not going to be your core product or service, but they can be a component of what you're offering in your signature system. But you can take those workbooks of maybe one module and sell it separately for a lower ticket, again, sort of depending on what you're doing, somewhere between $7 and $1,000. And you're doing this in such a way that you're creating a customer. And again, it's much easier to sell to people who have actually pulled out their wallet and have bought something from you than selling necessarily to a cold audience. Now, obviously, at some point you're selling this lower ticket to a cold audience, or relatively cold, but the principle still applies. Okay, so the next one is online workshops and webinars. Okay, so these could be live or recorded sessions that you've created around very specific subject matters, skills, strategies, insights, and you can include things like Q&A, hot seats, and other sort of additional components into that actually help you address participants' questions and concerns. Now, the interesting thing with Q&As is you can also use the questions to improve your product. And this is the beauty about running lower ticket or sometimes even free workshops and programs. The questions and interactions that you have can get you more in touch with the problems that your ideal customer is actually having, and then in solving those and using those questions in your marketing and addressing them, you can actually create not just lower ticket products and services which you can sell, but you can actually improve your core product. So then we've got mini courses. So these are short focused courses on specific topics, and these could be video based, they could be text based, but they may not be your full program, but they may be a component of your program. Mini courses can also be certificates. So you might have a certificate for attending, this could be live or online, but it's a component of a larger training or a larger experience. Okay, but mini courses that are short, they're focused on very, very niche, highly targeted subjects. These are a great way to sell a lower ticket item, and again generate one of these, or ideally over time, 1,000 of these customers. Okay, we've then got membership programs. Okay, so these are access to a private community, and we'll look at community again in a little bit of detail, with regular content updates, exclusive resources, webinars, discussion forums. And again, so membership programs are a great way of creating content, but you can offer a very high value for a lower ticket, maybe $100. It could be a monthly, so this could be something that you're building for your monthly or weekly recurring revenue. And again, it may not be your core program, but it's a great way of building customers and building raving fans. Number 5 here, templates and tools. So you can offer downloadable templates, checklists, and tools. So these will be things that you might use in your program, that you can break out of your program and actually sell, because they are a great way of helping a person solve a particular problem, and again position yourself as an expert in your field. So these obviously can include business planning templates, goal setting tools, mindset tools, accounting. It's really, templates are could be whatever subject. It could be diet related, it could be workouts, it's really only limited by your imagination. Okay, then we've got one-on-one consultations. So although this is a little harder to scale, the value of delivering one-on-one consultations is perceived by the market to be quite valuable. And so if you were to even charging a couple of $100, if you were to run 1,000 of these consultations a year, you can build a very, very lucrative coaching business, even on the lower end of the scale in terms of lower coaching and consulting. When I was more heavily reliant on doing personal training, I still love, personally, I love one-on-ones. I still do a lot of one-on-one consulting, obviously higher ticket, but I still do, because I love it, martial arts related one-on-ones. And I do that for a bit of fun, helps keep me fit as well. But it contributes to, over the years, I've lost count of the number of times where someone's done a one-on-one session with me, or a series of one-on-one sessions, and then later on, because I've built that relationship with them, they've come on as a higher ticket client, because I've already got that relationship with them. So these could obviously be packaged as a one-off, or a group of sessions. Now, we mentioned the community before, a membership, but this also extends to group coaching programs. So these could be limited size coaching programs with regular meetups. Participants obviously benefit from the collective insights and peer support. One of the great examples of this that I've done in the past is running challenges. And so challenges I'll probably mention later on as well. But in my gym business years, I've done several $1 million doing group coaching programs where they've come in, the clients have come in for a 12-week or not, some depending on the duration, sometimes 28-day challenge, sometimes a 12-week challenge, and they've gotten into the community and then decided to stay longer or bought more longer term memberships and packages. And the same process is totally applicable for multiple business models. It's not just limited to the gym business model. So community or group coaching programs are a great way of developing 1,000 true fans. Recorded video courses. So these are pre-recorded courses, that cover in detail comprehensive topics, so students can access and learn at their own pace. And again, when you're an expert, creating these courses can actually help consolidate your own knowledge, and it can also help in the process of distilling your knowledge and actually recording it. It actually helps improve your own level of knowledge and understanding about what it is that you know and how you do things. One of the things that I continually find fascinating, some of the work that I do, usually with one-on-one people that own businesses, is helping them create a self-managed business. And part of that, in extracting the knowledge out of the team or from the CEO, is creating standard operating procedures. And in the process of creating standard operating procedures to run their business, their business can run largely without them, or they can have managers that are then using those SOPs to train other people. Those SOPs actually form potentially what could be used either as a franchisable business, meaning once those SOPs are being created, the business is replicatable, depending on the nature of the business, or transferable into another industry where those SOPs could be applied in a different context. And so this recording videos, especially around knowledge or expertise or procedures, a way to do things, actually is extremely valuable. Sometimes with the value of a particular SOP or franchise model, being in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. So obviously we're talking about having 1,000, but if you wrap your head around, let's say you create an SOP that's worth $100,000 to a very specific industry, and you sold 100 of those over the course of even a couple of years, that's extremely lucrative. So then we've got masterclasses. So masterclasses, again, this is just a way of doing an intensive. It's a short sales cycle. Meaning the masterclass could be a one-off event, it could be a deep dive session on a specific area of your expertise. Masterclasses are usually a little bit longer than just a standard workshop, but again, that's a bit of semantics, a bit of positioning, however you present it. But the masterclass model, where you run a masterclass on a specific subject at a lower price than your core program or your core service, is a great way to develop trust and create customers. So number 10, we have seminars and live events. So these are in-person or virtual events that offer networking and learning opportunities. They can include panel discussions, keynote speakers, so you can invite other people in. You can run workshops where you actually do the work of a thing in the live event. That's a great way of doing things. You can have hot seats. And again, running seminars and live events are just a really great way of creating some attention, creating some buzz around what you're doing. You can say you're going to do it, you can run it, you can record it, and you can sell it often afterwards for people that weren't there at the live event. And then afterwards you can say, here's what I did, and you can market that live event again as a product to more people. So again, these are great ways of creating customers and raving fans or super fans. Coaching packages. So this is should be the very obvious. these are bundled coaching packages that you might package in with other resources, so ebooks, other courses. You might include coaching sessions, whether that's group or one-on-one. And again, clients get a holistic learning experience about a specific subject matter. Number 12, toolkits and resource libraries. So a collection of resources, again, guides, worksheets, video tutorials, accessible for a one-time fee or through a subscription model. And again, you can put whatever conditions you'd like around those. But resource libraries for specific subject matters are very valuable, even though they might be quite low ticket. You can do quite large numbers. Can't remember the name. I might remember later, but I was looking at a model where someone had sold Canva templates, and I think they were charging $37 for a whole bunch of Canva templates, and they were doing around $300,000 a month just selling a $37 Canva template package. So don't underestimate having toolkits or resource libraries that you sell. Expert interviews and special podcasts. Now, podcasts are kind of interesting. When we say podcasts, people don't usually think about paying for those. But essentially what we're talking about is specific expert interviews that you package up and you sell to your market. These could be recorded interviews with other industry experts, or you could create a podcast series or a special series discussing relevant topics with a number of experts, or you could speak to it yourself, and then you could have a free level and then a paid level. So maybe you're doing a free podcast and you can say, oh, we've got this special limited edition series where we speak to people and get their insights. It's also really useful if you have the highlights of an interview, but then the full interview in the paid version. So maybe you have highlights of an interview available for free, and then if a person wants to download the full version of that or the series, that they pay to have access to that. Again, this is a great way of generating customers, even if you are not necessarily the celebrity or the expert at that level. It's a very, very useful way. For me personally, this was how I got started with the video production, was interviewing experts in terms of jiu-jitsu and grappling, and this was before I was a black belt. And by interviewing and filming the best favorite techniques of different black belts, was able to create a DVD at the time, DVD series, had around 9 or 10 hours of interviews and training material in there. And yeah, it was able to sell several thousand copies at $97, and that was just a huge win for me at the time, to prove that even with a lower ticket, as long as you can create value and connect with other people, you'll be surprised at how many people will agree to donate or participate in one of these things just for the publicity. The other thing that I did was I would wholesale copies of those DVDs to those experts so they could sell them at a profit to their students. And you can certainly do that with expert interviews and these sorts of things, where you record it and you can sell it, but you can offer it to them. And again, there's different ways of doing this, usually by putting into a shopping cart or using something like Thrivecart, where they would use a code, the client would use a code, or the customer would use a code naming that person, and then that person would get a percentage of the sale directly out of the shopping cart. Challenges and boot camps. Now, I mentioned this before. Again, I've used that one extensively, and it's a really, really great way of creating attention and excitement. And it's also useful because they're short-term programs, and you can make them targeted around a very, very specific goal. And and you can include daily tasks. You can have resources, set up, different community engagement. Again, it may not be your highest ticket program, but you can segment up something or create a specific outcome that you're helping people achieve, and you run that program, and it might be separate to your main program, but it gets these people into your world, and then you ideally upsell some of them. It doesn't have to be straight away, but over the course of working with them, you develop that trust, and you give them an opportunity later to go up into one of your higher priced programs. It's a great way of doing things. And we've got self-assessment and evaluation tools. So this is very similar to the worksheets, but you can create tools that help clients assess their skills, their strengths, areas of improvement, assess their businesses, assess their relationships, assess their fitness, and then you can provide some guidance on how to proceed based on those results. So if you've got processes that you can give a name, like you have a process that you then give a name as a mechanism or a system, you can then create a tool or just a name that you can then sell this thing that creates an outcome. And again, it might not be your highest ticket offering, but it's a great way of getting customers. Content bundles, again, so these are curated collections of articles, videos, resources on a specific topic. You can offer value through convenience and expert curation. So sometimes you can even go through the internet and collect information on specific subjects or worksheets or insights, and you curate that and you create a bundle of what may actually be free resources, but by doing the legwork for someone, you save them time, plus they get to use some things that you recommend, even if you haven't created them, because if you're building yourself as an authority, people will trust you when you recommend things. Examples of this can also be around book clubs, where you haven't even written the book, but you pick a number of books out the course of the year, and you give your insights into the book each week or each month or each fortnight, and you can sell access to that even though you haven't written the books. Then we've got personalized plans. So these are similar to a hot seat, where you offer customized action plans based on their specific needs and goals. And when you combine this with coaching sessions for added value, this is a really great way of getting trust or building trust, and again offering something to your clients. And it may not be your core program, but by working with someone for a short period of time on a very specific thing, and getting them a result, you can build trust. Now, as part of that, you can actually create case studies and success stories and share real life examples of how your strategies have worked for others, and you can obviously highlight the results achieved by previous clients, but give insight into the specific things that have worked as part of the case study. So you can supply some of the tools or exercises or activities in conjunction with those real life examples, and you can package that up and sell that, and it has value. Obviously, you wouldn't be selling that the same as your your personal consulting services or your main programs. But again, these are ways of creating content that for a low fee, you can give people access to that can help them succeed. Then we've got merchandise. So merchandise is an interesting thing. Merchandise can be its own whole business. Obviously people have apparel, you have everything from drink bottles to bags to keychains. It's only limited by your understanding of a market. But sometimes when you have a brand or a niche market, you can combine apparel, or you combine merchandise with that brand, and you can sell that. And so sometimes people that may have never bought your higher ticket products or services still relate to you and your brand, and they can buy the brand. And it's a really interesting way, especially if it's a wearable like like apparel. It's a really interesting way not only of generating attention for your main program, but also you can sell the merchandise at a profit, and again you get a lead for your other stuff. I was speaking the other day to Nick Grigoriadis, who runs Subconscious Jiu-Jitsu academies all over the world. He's got a whole network, and yeah, one of the things we were looking at is for him is, even though each school had different programs and things going on, how merchandise could be used at each school, not only as advertising and creating a team, but obviously a profit center. And there's something very cool for people when they know they're buying limited edition merchandise. So sometimes you can have an event, and again, this could be a workshop, it could be a seminar, it could be whatever, and you have a top or a t-shirt or a sometimes it's a gift bag with stuff in it, of merchandise in it, diaries or notebooks or pens, those sorts of things. And all of these contribute not just to the profitability of in their case it was a gym, but you can use this for a lot of different business models, but also if there are things that the person can use depending on your service, it continually reminds them of you and your product or service every time they use that merchandise. And again, this could be for a wide range of things, so hopefully that makes sense. Then we've got joint ventures. And joint ventures are really interesting in that you can connect with other people's audience and leverage the trust that they have built with those people. So if you have a successful training or a successful process, you can go to someone and say, hey, I've got a really successful process for this thing. If it doesn't compete with what they're doing, there can be an opportunity for you to tap into their database of existing customers, to sell them as a joint venture whatever this result that you can create. And again, it might not be your highest ticket thing, but it's just a very, very, very fast way of connecting with a much, much bigger audience. And vice versa, if you already have an audience and you know someone that has a successful service or product or training or something, you can leverage off that with something that you haven't even created by offering a joint venture. So these can be really, really useful when you're in non-competing services. And I think we're in an age, anytime, and this is going to probably date, but anytime you're in a situation where there's additional market pressure, or I'll use the term recession, when you double down on communities and relationships and joint ventures, this can be a really, really good way of maintaining your business, still growing your business when market trust is much lower, or there's scarcity or fear in the marketplace. It's a really, really great way to keep the things going by doing joint ventures. And then as part of that, guest appearance, speaking, getting paid to speak or present at other people's events, it can literally pay in the thousands of dollars depending on the result that you're talking about or the nature of your positioning in the marketplace. It's also obviously a great way to connect with new audiences, where you might even do the appearance for free but have a specific offer at the end of that, which you give to the audience, that either you take 100% of, depending on the guest appearance agreement, or a small component goes to the other person, similar to a joint venture. So here's the thing to remember. You remember to price your offerings based on their perceived value and the amount of content or interaction you're providing. When you sort of position this with your target audience's willingness to pay. Okay, so this is really where we're understanding market desire. If a market has a desire for a particular thing, even if it's not what your main thing is, if you can cater to that desire, what they actually are wanting, and then sell them what they need once you've built that relationship, again, that can be a really great way of building your business, is catering to a want, what they're actively looking for. It's much easier to sell to people that actually want stuff, okay, because people buy what they feel like buying, not what you necessarily want them to buy. And when you cater to that, you build a relationship, and then you have an opportunity to influence them ethically to buy some of your high ticket products and services. The big thing to remember here is always be building your own list of subscribers or followers, and to back up or control the platforms of delivery. And this is one of the laws of scaling a coaching business or a consulting business or online business. You always want to be in control of the system of service that you're providing, as well as building your own list. And we all know multiple stories about how different platforms are censoring people or slapping people down, and it can be very difficult if you haven't built your email list that you control and you have backups of, to keep doing business if that happens. Okay, so I highly recommend that you're always building your own list of subscribers, followers, a list of customers that you back up and nurture as part of this overall process. So this is obviously a big subject. Thousand true fans. We want to be positioning. We've just gone through 21 different ways. Some of them are a little bit similar or integrated, but hopefully that's some inspiration in breaking up aspects of your core service and creating something or multiple things that are lower priced to give people access to you. And there's a concept called a self-liquidating offer where that can apply to this, where the cost of acquiring a customer is covered by that lower ticket item. Say, for example, it's costing me $50 to get a customer, and I'm selling a $55 product. That cost to acquire that customer, to have that customer in my database, I'll gladly sell them and make nothing on that product. Sometimes it's even called a loss leader, where you lose money on the front end, but because you've got a higher ticket, product or service on the back end, that you're able to scale it. And now, as part of this, we want to be thinking about how to schedule all of this. So again, this is a big subject, and we're not gonna cover all of this right now. But so we're talking about this idea here of 1,000 true fans. In terms of the price point, then your Dream 100, and again, this is a whole other training that you should check out. This is a much higher price point. It could be a mastermind, but these people are paying usually between $3,000 to even up to $20,000 to $50,000, depending on what your product or service is. And then you have an inner circle, where these are people usually that you've segmented that have already gone through your training or already at a higher level. Say, for example, people that already have a 7-figure business would be better off in an inner circle environment than they would necessarily with people who are in a startup situation, just as an example. And then we have one-to-one clients, and I've spoken about this a lot, and you guys will have probably heard me speak about this in the past, but I do recommend doing this kind of in reverse. Get very good at creating a result with one-to-one clients, and then work your way back down and back up, obviously both ends. Okay, so rather than just having you still might be here's the key, you still might be doing the same thing with all levels. Okay, so you're not doing 500 different things necessarily. You might be doing the same things with all levels, or slightly different position for different offers, but it's leveraging your zone of genius in very, very specific ways. Now, when we look at this and we're scheduling this out, you want to be looking at what you're doing daily. So you might be doing stuff in your authority hub, you might be emailing or sending content to your clients. Then weekly, you want to be, ideally looking at some kind of masterclass. These are ways of just generating attention to then sell these lower ticket and higher ticket offerings. Then things you could be doing monthly, so different launches, different conversion events. And these tie in very, very well with the 1,000 True Fans. The masterclasses, typically these are kind of like free, but then you're collecting an email, and then in the thank you page you can have an offer of some kind, whether that's to jump on a call, or if you're doing phoneless sales, you clarify what kind of offer you're doing. And then so monthly, you've got, you could be doing different offers monthly, okay? Especially if you're doing workshops on different subject matters. It's, again, a really great way of catering to your market, but exploring different specific areas. And then quarterly, you might be running retreats or more specific workshops. And yearly, you might even be designing a total new package or a new thing each year, certainly refining your products each year. Now, there's more to this. I'm obviously just kind of reviewing it, but all of these you want to put through our offer engine. Okay, often what I'll call the offer matrix, which is really where we're looking at how to create the offer itself. And I've done trainings around this, but I'll just really quickly, just to give it some context here. If we're looking at the offer matrix, we've got a number of lenses that we want to be thinking through. Who is the person? So who is the person that we're targeting? What's their demographics, what's their psychographics, and we want to be applying the 80-20 rule. I generally say actually the 80-20 by 2. 80-20 by 2, meaning you go a couple of layers deeper in your avatar's specific needs to cater to a smaller, more specific market. But anyway, you need to be clear on who your person is. Then you want to be looking at really clearly what the problem is. What does the product solve? What problem does the product solve? What's the problem hypothesis? So many if we look at this is a problem hypothesis. The number one problem stopping coaches from scaling their product, program, or mastermind is a shortage of warm qualified leads. That's a problem hypothesis. Okay, so what's the problem hypothesis? And then how do your prospects actually talk about the problem? Okay, what's the language they use? Because sometimes when you're an expert, my camera's out of focus here, that should be refocusing. Sometimes when you're an expert in a particular subject, that's kind of weird. That's normally really fast in terms of refocusing. There we go. Sort of. Yeah, when you're an expert, sometimes you'll develop language that can miss the market. because you're an expert in what you're saying. You talk about it from your perspective. It may not be how they're thinking about it. So you want to run the problem through an analysis of their languaging. Then you want to think about, what's your promise? Okay, what are the results? What does those results feel like? Can you put them in the shoes of those results? How does it actually work? What's the timeline for results? And you want to add other emotional triggers like scarcity, other benefits, other intellectual property or unique mechanisms should be ideally woven in to your promise. Then we want to be thinking about the product itself. What actually is the product? Is it and we just went through 21 of them. Is it a course? Is it a workshop? Is it a whatever? Now, the minimum viable product, you guys will probably hear me, so is a message. Okay, and we'll have other trainings on this, but the minimum viable product is a message. And when you learn how to message, or when you message a market, you can test the viability of a desire prior to creating the offer, prior to creating the product. Sorry, I'll say that again. When you have a message that matches the market, you can actually test whether the market will actually buy it just by sending a message. Okay, so the most minimum viable version of a product is actually the offer message. Okay, we need to go into that in a whole separate training. We'll have a little bit of a look as I wrap this up, but hopefully that makes sense. And I'm drawing stuff here that you can't see. What is the business or product mission? What's the product's outcome? How do they actually buy? What quick wins or tools, templates, onboarding experience, special events, or added bonuses that you can wrap into that product? Okay, so that's your product here. Then we want to think about the proposal. So this is when we're talking about the core offer. The proposal is an offer. Okay, what is the core offer? Okay, how can you demonstrate proof of the concept of this offer, or give them results in advance? And all of the things that we've just listed are a way of building that proof of concept, or giving them a segment of results in advance for a particular part of a bigger picture problem to build trust. You also, with your proposal, you want to be talking about price. How much is it? What are the terms of payments? Is it a try before you buy? Are you giving guarantees like 30 days, love it or leave it? Or if a person doesn't achieve a particular result at a particular time, you'll keep working with them until they reach a particular outcome. As part of the proposal, you also really want to understand what they need to believe in order to buy. What do they need to believe is true? And are there any values or principles or other agreements around this? Again, this is a big subject, but when you're looking at your offer, these are things that you want to be thinking about. Then, as part of your offer, you also want to think about your community. So who are the other people? These are actually one of the most valuable components of, especially for coaching and consulting businesses. You guys will know I'm a huge proponent of masterminds. Is the value of community and getting people together. So you want to be really clear on if that is part of your offer. Maybe it's not, maybe you're just doing one-on-one, but if there is other people connected with this offer, and you want to get really clear on the customer journey. So when you talk about, when you've taken a number of people through your product, service, or training, over time you will develop deeper and deeper insights into the customer journey, the things that they'll experience, at what point that people have typical setbacks, because very rarely things happen in a straight line. Even when you're helping them directly, it can be very, very difficult and challenging. So you want to be careful. You want to be clear on the customer journey. You also want to be really, really clear on what your vision is. So when we talk about vision that this is sort of that level. I won't go into the 7 attentions now, but this is a version of the 7 attentions. And then how does what this you're offering fit into your higher purpose or holy cause? Sometimes this can feel a little esoteric, but as you get into business long enough, you realize that if you personally are not aligned with some, thing that is your North Star, it can be easy to sort of languish and shift and drift. But when you align your product or service in such a way that you know in your heart, like in your bones, that you are contributing to some bigger picture, it can make a humongous difference to how you are positioning your offer, especially around the offer energetics. So one of the things to remember, and again, I'm not going to go through this, but is position all of these things these 21 things, you want to position them for one person. So who is your ideal person? What's the number one problem you're solving? And you want to talk about it in terms of what's in it for them. So the WIFM here, what's in it for them, with a clear promise of what they get plus, the benefits. And ideally, you're doing it in such a way that it's at least 10 times the value. So if you're creating a $10,000 return on their investment, you could be charging up to that $1,000 mark, sometimes even more, but ideally at minimum a 10x value. So when it comes to positioning this, it can be really important to be clear on what we call a one-liner, and I've done other trainings around this, this is something you should be familiar with. But this is a way of understanding that your messaging around those 21 things that we just listed can make or break the success of it. You might have a really great product or program or service, but if you can't communicate it cleanly and clearly in a way that the audience actually understands and already has a desire around, it can be very difficult. So I won't go through this in too much detail, but there's some sort of examples here, where you can say, it's a workshop for who's the identity that helps them get 5 leads, lose 10 kilos, fix their relationship without specific fear or pain, because what's the belief or value or higher purpose. So this is a really good little template that helps create the offer. Another conversational way, how avatar problem story, which causes this particular emotion, well, our whatever the name of your product helps that identity so that you get the result without fear, because we believe in values. Again, very similar way of doing that, but it's when you fill in the gaps for these and you sort of run through what you're offering, the purpose of this is so that you can very quickly and clearly communicate what it is that you're offering, who it's for, what problem it solves, what is it, and why you're offering it. And again, it just makes it really easy for people to decide to get on board. I'm building this product for this person to do this result because blah blah blah. Again, it's a very similar sort of template. This one here, if I offered, this is sometimes referred to as a power offer. Joel Urway has a really great framework around this. Some of these other frameworks, Frank Kern, I got from Frank Kern, and just being in the industry, that tend to follow this formula. This last one here is a Joel Urway inspired framework. If I offered to do whatever the thing is in this number of days or hours without whatever the pain lists are, would you take me up on the offer? And again, this is a way of putting something to market before you even create all of the other assets or programs or tools or worksheets, and you can use this to test whether or not there is an existing market desire or demand before you waste time. And you may want to explore these and test these out every couple of weeks or months with your audience, because when people are ready to buy, and again, this is a big subject, when people are ready to buy, I won't go through it now, but usually around 3% of your market is ready to buy. And when you give a direct offer like this, let's say you've got 1,000 people in your audience, they may be ready to buy. Let's say 30 people of those 1,000 are actively looking. They're solution aware, and they're looking for offers because they're ready to solve the problem. And so if you think about 1,000, if you can reach 1,000 people in a specific, it has to be a specific market, 30 of them. So now, it doesn't mean all 30 of them are going to buy, but these will become leads. So if you're closing 1 in 5, and you're charging between $10,000 and $25,000, being able to position an offer like this, every couple of months, you can quite easily generate some really great returns. But it typically follows this structure of messaging, where you can say what you've created or what you're going to do, who it's for, what it does, why it's important. So again, it follows this 7 attentions formula. Here's the first 5. Who is it? What's the big problem? How are you solving it? What's the clear promise, and why, and the details of the proposal, and what to do now. And so for these, you're ideally tapping into their aspirational identity. Now, they will mirror your identity and what you've done in terms of how they see themselves, and that's often why they'll buy. Again, big subject, but at this level. Then you want to be clear on the specific details of the problem that you're solving. And you also want to have some, unique methods, and be very clear about the results, the emotional benefits of the results, rather than features. Don't worry about the features of the thing, actually the benefit of solving the problem, and also the consequences. So this is sometimes we talk about the gap. You want to be, establishing the gap, but you can do that very quickly in a clear message. And then with the proposal, you want to be tapping into the context and the belief around why they should do that, and also obviously the offer itself, with a clear call to action to get them started. Again, this is just a sort of a little recap for those that have already done this sort of training, but the impact of getting clear on your offer and then aligning it with one of these 21 ways that I've just listed is an incredible way of creating a raving fan. Okay, it's an incredible way of creating a customer, and again, it's much easier to sell your higher ticket, products and services to your fans, to your customers, rather than to completely cold audience. Okay, so hopefully that training makes sense and you got some value out of it. Again, depending where you are, what group you're in, and how you're seeing this, feel free to give feedback or your thoughts, as well as how you're going to apply this information. Anyway, team, hopefully that was valuable. I'll talk to you soon.